what you're up to. And before we begin, to remind folks that the whole impetus for this show is to celebrate folks who are working in their passions, that they are doing activities, events, having experiences that really feed their soul. So it's like so good that it feeds their soul. And so when I was thinking about people that I wanted to chat with, Ladora came to mind. And if you haven't had an experience with Ladora hugging you, it is the best. Like you are the best hugger in the world. Kendall is one of the students in my class. Kendall is one of Kendall is one of the students in one of my classes, and so I get to see Ladora and Kendall often, every week, in fact. And you always like give the best hugs, and that's sometimes I'm like stressed. I'm having a rough day, and I see you, and I'm like, oh. So if you don't have somebody like that in your life, like find that person. So I want to say that I appreciate that about you.
Absolutely.
And Kendall also in class, he's like, "What do you need, Miss Hollee? Can I help you do a thing? Can I help you do a thing?" And so I appreciate you also, Kendall. So thank you. So we're gonna get into it. We're gonna just talk a little bit about who they are, like what they have going on, and then we're gonna get into Coffee Liberated, and talk about all the neat stuff that you have going on with that. And I know that Kendall, you have some experiences with your mom with doing coffee like things, and then we'll talk about the stuff that you're doing also. Cool. So just to start, like, who are you? What do y'all like to do? Give us a little background information.
So thank you so much, Hollee, for having us here. It's really a special moment. And thank you for receiving my hugs. Like I always think it's a thing to take a moment and make sure we're, really embracing one another and just being present with one another whenever we can. Because we don't know what one another's going through all the time. And so it's always good to have that. So thank you. Thank you for
it, man. Because like I'm taking care of my dad and everything, and sometimes coming in, and I'm just like, whoo. And you will stop what you're doing and come all the way across the room just to give me a hug. And I'm like, it's very much appreciated.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. So, hey, everyone. It's such a pleasure. It's such an honor to be here in the same room with Dr. Hollee Freeman. So a little bit about me. My name is Ladora Carter. I was born in the small city of Martinsville, Virginia, just maybe 30 minutes south of Danville, Virginia, which a lot of people have heard about a bit more. A lot of history, very country southern town with some very important historical roots as well. I moved to Northern Virginia, Woodbridge, when I was around 10 years old. And so I was essentially raised there. And then I studied at VCU. So that's what brought me down here to Richmond back in 2007. So I've been here ever since. I think that the people really and the less trafficked areas, meaning like there's less traffic here than Northern Virginia. I feel like I have more of a better quality of life here in the city. So yeah, I'm here. And then this is my wonderful son, Kendall Carter Ashby. He just turned 12. You just turned 12 on August the 18th. And so I'm glad to have him here as well, present with us. You want to say anything special?
Yeah. So, hi everyone. My name is Kendall. Like my mom just said, I just turned 12 on August 18th. It was a Sunday. A little bit about me is I love playing video games. I love playing basketball, and in fact, I'm about to go to practice after this. But
aren't you like a capoeira person?
Oh yeah, yeah. I love doing a lot of sports like jiu-jitsu, capoeira, and just active stuff.
Yeah. And I think you get it from your mama, because aren't you a martial arts person?
Oh yeah. He actually introduced me to martial arts. We took martial arts, taekwondo. I can't remember what age, maybe like around 8 or 9 years old. We started together. And that really led me on a journey to, you know, rediscovering myself in a different way. And so I eventually, you know, moved on to a different martial art, which was jujitsu. And it's become like home for me outside of, you know, coffee and the things that I do. And so it's taught me so much, you know, within myself, how I'm interacting with the world, how, you know, we go about making decisions, you know, complicated, very complicated decisions. And yes, keeping me healthy as well. So
When I saw you with a big old what did I see you do? Like, I think you like slammed someone on the floor, and you somebody like their arm was behind them and the leg was hanging out, and I was like, what in the world? I was like, you are that person. You are that person.
Yeah. I typically tell people I'm a lover and a fighter when I need to.
And a fighter when you need to. I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
Where do you take martial arts?
Yeah, so over here in Chesterfield, so we practice at 804 Jiu-Jitsu, which has been open for quite a while. They have such a very, you know, open and embracing environment of men and women who practice there from all types of backgrounds, work professions, and everything. And they have a lot of children too there practicing, so it's really cool to go in there, you know, and see the kids practicing, and there's like a 4 or 5 year old up until like 13, 14. So it's a really unique space to be a part of.
I love it. So, birthday boy, on Sunday, what did you do for your birthday?
So on Friday, I went to the ancestral burial grounds in Richmond, Virginia. It's by Carey Street, and we went there to do a photo shoot with one of my mom's friends and my friend. But we were just in the grass. I was flipping, I was doing handstands, and we took some pictures. And then on Saturday, I went to Busch Gardens, Water Country, and I had a lovely and fun time there. A lot of my friends came, and a lot of my family came too, and it was just really fun. And then on Sunday, we went to this garden where my friend and his mom and his dad and his little brother, they plant plants there, and they made a beautiful garden. They also made it bigger because we haven't been there in a while. And so yeah, and after that, we went to a treat shop to get some treats, and then I went to Sky Zone with my friends that I haven't seen in a couple years, and it was really fun. And then me and my mom surprised me with the dinner with my grandparents. The food was really good, and that's it.
That's a lot. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Where is the thing? You need a Stevie Wonder happy birthday, like interlude right now.
I know.
That sounds awesome. I have to say, Kendall, that I've known you for I think 2 years, like maybe going on 3 years.
Yeah,
Three, something like that. 3. I am like so impressed with you. Like I was already, but you are really like growing and maturing, and just like I'm glad you're here. It's really nice to talk to you.
I had like short locks.
You did have 3 years ago. Yeah. You were in my literature class as an elementary student. Yeah. I'm glad to be able to talk to you like about stuff that's other than books. So I'm glad you're here to share, and I'm so glad you had a great birthday. If you all want to ask questions of the Carters, put them on the work Facebook page, or even my own Facebook page. I have it open so I can see it. We have some questions already, and we'll answer them after Kendall and Ladora talk a little bit about Coffee Liberated, which is the whole point of the show. Now, I am not a coffee drinker. I envy people. Ron looked up at me like, what? Not a coffee drinker, but I like the smell of coffee. I think it's like the caffeine that kind of like gets me. And we've had this conversation before about like the decaf coffees and everything. So I really am like, I don't know anything
Mhm.
about coffee,
Mhm.
but I do know that I got some coffee from you, and I gave it to my dad, and he was like, "This is the best coffee ever." And so I know that, yeah. And then at the co-op where we both are, a lot of people are drinking the coffee that you have. So tell us a little bit about what got you into
Mhm.
coffee, and then we'll talk about some of the experiences you've had on your coffee journey.
Yeah, so to start off, I am the founder of Coffee Liberated. It is a Black and woman owned coffee roasting company here in Richmond, Virginia. And super grateful, to even be able to say I'm an entrepreneur.
Yes.
Right. So it's been quite a journey, which I'm looking forward to share as well. Thank you.
Wait a minute, what is this? This is not coffee. Is this coffee?
Oh yeah, eliminate.
Oh,
Yeah.
Coffee
Yeah,
eliminate. Okay,
we'll
we
chat
don't talk about that. Okay.
Yeah, because that's really
Okay.
special.
Okay.
Right here.
Okay.
So, oh goodness, where am I? What am I doing here? Why coffee? Why in this moment? And so it all started out of grief, and I was introduced. Actually, my earliest moment with coffee, I saw a question there. I was introduced to coffee through my grandparents, Doris Carter and Timothy Carter, who lived in Martinsville, Virginia. And so I would go and spend my summers with them. With all of the cousins got together, and we just spent summers there. And some folks were, some of my cousins were outdoors more. I was indoors because I didn't want to get stung by bees and wasps, right? So all the honey stuff. But yeah, I remember waking up really early in the morning and seeing my grandparents gathered at the kitchen table. And I would always peek from the back room behind the stairs and see what they're doing. I was like, what are they doing? They, preparing breakfast. Breakfast wasn't ready yet. And so one thing they would do first was my grandmother would make a cup of coffee. And I would always smell it. And I was like, what is it? It smells so good. And, one thing I remember is them both enjoying the coffee and just taking a moment out of the day very early before my grandfather went off to work. And really just, reconnecting, right? Remembering and discussing, whatever it was, the topic of the session for that morning. And so sometimes I saw them, very happy and cheerful and laughing. Other times I saw them, crying and mostly in prayer, because they were missionaries at a local apostolic church. And so I really got to experience coffee then. And, I one morning I came out and I was like, hey, what is this you're drinking? And they were like, this is an adult beverage. It's going to stunt your growth. All the things they were. It doesn't. So I was persistent in asking her, hey, grandma, can I try this? I really want it. I see what it's doing. I see what this moment is doing for you both, bringing you together. Can I experience it? And I tried it and I was disgusted. Absolutely disgusted.
Because some coffee
It was a very, very strong cup of black coffee, right? And this was American coffee, and coffee that I no longer drink. But we'll talk about that another day. But what I really appreciated most was the sacred moment that they created, and coffee was always the center of it. And so as I continue, as I grew older, I wanted to create those moments for myself, my family, and my community, because I saw the power of what it did at the kitchen table with not only food, right, tied to history, right, but coffee also tied to history. And that's what we're all about today at Coffee Liberated, is really recalling and remembering our ancestors, and how we're all connected within the African diaspora, but generally being remembering home, Mother Africa, which we all came from.
Have you tried coffee yet?
No.
Okay. Well, you don't have to do the American bitter black coffee. You're gonna try some smooth coffee. So Ladora, that's really interesting because I just did a cotton tour with VSU. We went to Raleigh and explored the research facility around cotton, which was totally interesting. So when I think of southern crops or southern crops by way of Africa, I think tobacco, rice, cotton maybe cotton, but definitely tobacco and rice. I don't think about coffee as a kind of an African product that came over to the US. So that's interesting that you said that, kind of this remembering home, remembering Africa. So, and I know you've had double trips back to Africa. So I'd love for you to talk about that in a second. But can you just talk about kind of a little bit of the history of how coffee came from Africa to the US?
Yeah, absolutely. And so coffee, just like our ancestors, right, and cotton were all considered commodities and things for sale, unfortunately. But coffee was one of those things that was priced outside of any of our means at that time. And so it wasn't something that we were, privileged, or given the access to experience. And so when I think about that in terms of history and today and how it got here, I'm thinking about, oh, hey, these are one of the things that were taken from us as well, in terms of the knowledge and the cultivation, like agriculture, right? And some forms of us not knowing really where agriculture and a lot of the, plants and vegetables and fruits really, came from. And so, this was all back, in the 16th and 17th century when, or 14th century when coffee Arabica coffee was discovered in Ethiopia. And some Dutch colonizers came and did what they did and stole it from Ethiopia, and that's how it made its way around the world.
That makes sense because Ethiopians have a whole coffee ceremony.
Yes,
like it's like with you got to pour it a certain way and do a certain thing with it.
Yeah, and so the Ethiopian coffee ceremonies, where we can talk about that too. One of the things, one of the most beautiful things I experienced while spending time there in Africa was one of the ancestral practices that we often talk about with Coffee Liberated, because that was the country in which coffee was cultivated first, known to be found. And they were really the first to cultivate it and really see it as a blessing. And really continue to honor that throughout generations.
Wow, that's so interesting. Yeah, that's why, and that's probably why I and maybe other folks didn't make the connection between coffee and Africa, because we usually think about commodities from the east coast of Africa, like coming right over, but kind of Ethiopia and how the Dutch kind of came, the colonizers came and then used the coffee. So that's good. That's really important. And so you have your company, Coffee Liberated. Tell us a little bit about kind of what do you do? I know you source I don't even know the words to say. Like you source your own beans. Like tell us. I don't even know what to say. Tell us something.
Yeah. So we source our coffee from Africa and the African diaspora. And one of the, reasons why we do that, which is really a part of our brand and our logo, is connected to the cowrie shell. And the cowrie shell, here, it's in the middle where the O. And our name, Coffee Liberated, is really, known to represent in Africa a lot of spirituality practices, but most commonly people associated with a form of currency back in the 16th and 17th century. But one of the things we use it as now in Africans and descendants is spirituality, wise prosperity, right? And fertility and things like that, and protection. But one of the things that represents for me is
I see a cowrie shell. And do you have let's see.
Yeah, we got some shells.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, and it's just consistently reminds us of where we come from. One of the most beautiful and richest continents in the world. And so that's really why it's a way to remember where we came from and recall. Yeah.
So you I definitely want to hear more about your trip. I know you went to Ethiopia. Where else did you and just I remember seeing pictures of the women there with all the coffee beans laid out, and you're like smelling the coffee and all that. So I wanted you to talk a little bit about that process. So Ethiopia, where else have you gone in terms of your coffee research?
Yeah. So before I, get to my experiences, beautiful experiences, I would just, like to take a moment to just share gratitude for the people, coffee professionals that I have in my life who've introduced me to all of these spaces. And there's a number of them here in Richmond. Of course, Melody Short and Adrian, they've been such great mentors, who founders of the Richmond Night Market. Kelly Lemon as well has been amazing in mentorship over at the Urban Hang Suite. And so many other great Black women here in the city, really, just doing big things.
Nice. Thank
really.
you.
But another really essential, company, my brothers and sisters over at Coffee Black in Memphis, Tennessee. They are a Black-owned coffee roasting company, and been connected with them since about 2021, 2022. And, I saw them on, encountered them on social media, just doing some amazing things and really just sharing all about the African history and our connection to it, which I hadn't heard done so brilliantly before. And so, I connected with them, and was able to visit them, and it just felt like a big old hug from my grandma walking into the anti-gentrification coffee club. That's the cafe that they have in Memphis. But Renata and Bart, who are the founders, they also created the Pan-African Barista Exchange Program, which is monumental. It's the only program of, this stature that I'm aware of. And I'm really grateful to have been a part of it, and to, still be connected with these amazing people. But the goal was to connect African Americans to origin coffee culture, as a way to reconnect within our own roots, and to really, really just learn the ancestral history and cultivation of coffee, as a way to uplift us in our own community. And then part two, which they're just about to launch in September, they're bringing coffee professionals from Africa to experience coffee culture here from the Western perspective. And so when I went back in November of last year, 2023, we, a group of us coffee professionals from Florida, from Los Angeles, and a few other spaces, and North Carolina, we went to Ethiopia to really experience coffee culture as in its original form. And so we were able to spend time with the Oromia people, which they had the most ancient form of the coffee ceremony, Ethiopian coffee ceremonies, called the Bunakala. And it was one of the most powerful experiences in coffee that I've ever had. And there were so many moments of, what seemed to be flashbacks of seeing myself there and home. And so there, many moments where, it's super emotional. But there were women there from the tribe, and we, had the honor of really just sitting and listening to them and asking them questions. And I recall one of the questions in particular that was asked, there's this thing with Black women, and why we're always having to fight, for, our own existence, our own health, our own equity, and our family and community. Why, and then they sort of responded, well, we were never colonized. And so we don't need to do that. We walk in what was already ours and continues to be ours. And it was like one of the most powerful, again, experiences that I've had, to be in that space and to realize, wow, as a Black woman, descendant of Africa, I already had this power. I already have it. And so that's something that I feel deep within that I had to experience in that moment. And so met some amazing people. We were able to experience coffee in so many other places and regions as well. Yirgalem, Ethiopia, and at the Diabensa Coffee Farm, which is in Sidama region of Ethiopia as well. They're doing some incredible things in terms of sustainability, equity within the coffee supply chain, and really just supporting the women there in the community who are really cultivating the coffee of the farm.
So they and Kendall, jump in if you have questions or comments. And folks who are online, like, send us your questions, because this right here is fire. Like, we having church or something up in here, because you are like doing a thing.
Church. Let's go.
Have a coffee church up in here. The women in Ethiopia make do they make a living selling coffee, or is it mostly ceremonial?
So it is ceremonial. So you'll find it, as you're driving, through different areas, you'll see them, on the side of the road. And they literally have
Wow.
all of their tables and the cine cups and everything to prepare coffee. So you'll see that as you're driving along the streets. But on the farm, they have women who are surrounding the community, and they have them come in and work. And one of the most beautiful things that, they shared when I was there was, during menstrual cycle, they're super supportive. And so they give them time off away from the farm to really make sure they're, cared for and supported in that way. And it's one of the most, beautiful things, I was able to experience.
I have
There.
a question.
Yeah.
See why I love him?
So a few years ago, did you think that you would have your own coffee business as a Black woman?
That is such a great question. My
Ken.
goodness gracious.
Son, I it's something that I would never have dreamed of doing. But I was reassured that I had everything I needed when grandma and grandpa left this world. They are continuing to, they're still with us, but they reassured me that I had everything that I needed.
Oh my God, I'm about to cry.
So I didn't years and years ago. I didn't think it was possible at all. And still, I wake up in the morning and I'm just like, wow, I get to do this. I get to do this thing. And you're a part of it too.
That's
And
why it's so good, right?
Yeah,
Because it's
so-
like coming from your soul.
Yeah. It's really special.
Oh my gosh.
And then, to see him, so engaged with it, and just, as he's pouring the bags and, weighing out the coffee, and
Oh,
and
you're
the
helping
facility.
out. Look at you, little entrepreneur.
He gets to be a part of this creative space that I want to
Yeah.
have, to get curious
Yeah.
and to ask questions and to share these moments with. And so he gets to see all of this unfolding
I love it.
and be a part of it. How do you feel being the son of an entrepreneur?
It feels great. It feels like it feels like I'm part of it too. It feels like I have my own business. Like it's,
Oh my God.
yeah.
You're killing me right now. I know we have Mercury retrograde and everything. Like maybe that's why, but you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay.
This has been. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Also, it also takes a lot of responsibility to have your own business, because you have to do all this stuff to do your sales and make sure people are liking your coffee. If they don't like it, try to improve it or go to somebody else.
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah,
take care of yourself, right?
yeah.
Because
Mhm.
if you are like worn down, then you can't give your best to the company too. So
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that your grandparents had
Mhm.
coffee in the morning before they started their day.
Mhm.
In your travels, does it function the same way, or do people kind of drink coffee all throughout the day? Like, does it have the same? I don't even know. Like,
It's in Africa.
yeah, in Africa.
So, well, in Ethiopia, because I think coffee culture is definitely different as you travel from east,
Gotcha.
to central to west. Very, very different. And I think one of the things that Coffee Black was intentional about was showing us this as coffee professionals from the Western perspective. And so we were able to learn a lot. But in Ethiopia, it's a blessing. It's literally, may your home lack no coffee nor peace. And so what that means is coffee precedes events. It's always a part of celebrations, weddings, when a mother gives birth, or for a child's birthday, at pretty much any hour of the day. It's present. And so, within my own spaces, I'm often, thinking about what if we, from the Western perspective, saw coffee in that way.
Right.
It would be it would be nothing like it is today.
Right.
And so one of the things that I'm, trying to focus on is really teaching that and continuing to, to reiterate equity in all spaces, equity for all people, and especially Black people within the coffee industry.
give every whew, give we need to like do a woo sob moment. Give everybody your
Mhm.
your website, all of
Yeah.
your information so that Ron can throw it up on the screen.
Mhm.
I think I have it.
Okay.
Make some comments.
It's
Oh,
in
yeah.
there.
Yeah. We have
Along with
okay.
a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, I
Okay.
see.
I
Thank
love
you.
it. He got
Yeah,
pictures and
yeah.
everything. So
Yeah.
he
Yes.
you gotta have
But look, y'all, pretty much all socials. Coffee Liberated on Instagram. Coffee Liberated on Facebook as well. Yeah, so you can send a message. I'm the one responding, so I have no bots. I have it's me. And get in touch with. And one of the things that, I'm really excited about is connecting with people and hearing their own stories, their first, encounters with coffee and what it meant to them.
I might have to have a first encounter with coffee. We
Yeah.
can get like a decaf coffee. You know what? I think that like my thing about coffee was I didn't want the caffeine to kind of like consume me because I'm a little bit frenetic anyway. But I think one day I was going to work. I used to teach in New York City, and I was married at the time.
Mhm.
And my then husband made me coffee. I thought it was tea. I don't even know what I thought it was. It was so long ago, like 30 something years ago. And I drank it, and I was so jittery, like I could feel my heart busting out of my chest,
Mhm.
and I had to lie down on the carpet and just. I remember like telling the kids, "I'm okay. I just need to like rest for a minute." And I just remember that sensation of it just being like didn't feel good.
Mhm.
And so I don't know like what kind of coffee it was, like how strong it was. But when you go from like not ever drinking coffee to having like a big dose, it kind of like messed me up.
Mhm.
And so I think that's why I kind of have I haven't like jumped into coffee again. But you're giving me the impetus to try a little bit again, especially if it's like the smooth like coffee that you do. So I just like made that connection.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about Coffee Liberated and what.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I want to touch on
Yeah.
decaf and caffeine, right? Because it's the coffee plant is naturally occurring with caffeine, right? And so when you go to cafes or restaurant and they offer decaf, it's going through it still has maybe a little bit of caffeine, but the coffee has went through an extraction process, right, to remove that caffeine. And one of the things that I've been really curious about was the statistics and things, the benefits of coffee, because we always hear about, oh, this is bad for my digestive system, and I'm having these reactions. And so Coffee Black has actually been doing a lot of research in partnership with the Vanderbilt University. They have a whole institute on coffee. And so these are doctors and, professionals telling us all of the benefits. And one of the things that stuck out to me most was how beneficial coffee has been for depression in women. Yeah. And so surprisingly, there are was when you have too much of anything, it can have an effect. And so one of the things I'm always stressing, if you're a coffee drinker, make sure you're hydrated and you drink the water that you need to, because oftentimes when you're not and you're dehydrated and then you drink a cup of coffee, you're going to have this reaction. And so always making sure, for every cup of coffee, I'm doing like 1 to 2 cups of water to make sure I'm hydrated. So yeah,
that does make sense.
Yeah. So yeah, but decaf is available for those with those sensitivities. Yeah.
Before we go to this, didn't y'all go to Switzerland? Was that part of the coffee?
No.
Oh,
no.
y'all.
A nonprofit initiative to change, and it's been able to take me all across the world, where I've had the opportunity to connect with people from the African diaspora. So last year we went to a conference in Switzerland. That's what took us there.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
So I saw you playing on the hills, and you playing soccer or something, Kendall. Yeah. Okay, because I was wondering, like, is that a connection?
Yeah.
And okay, cool. That makes sense. Let's see what questions we have. So you answered the question, what is your earliest memory of drinking coffee? That was a beautiful story. You're gonna get into this in a second. So I don't even know why I'm asking this right now. But like, do we have the right conditions here on the East Coast to grow coffee?
Unfortunately, no.
No.
Naturally, like outside, on the farm with all
No. But
types
if you
of
got
seasons.
to
If you have a greenhouse, you can absolutely. It's definitely going to take some work. So it requires a certain level of humidity, which we have in the summer, but it also require coffee loves high altitudes. And so you're typically happen to, mimic the humidity, typically between 60 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit is what they love to, or they, growing in conditions as well as water and rain. And so not overwatering because that can be
oh wow.
detrimental to it. But yeah, it's really specific. But yeah, I know Papa's Organic Farm
Yeah.
over in California, they grow coffee. And it's a space in California. I think it's near LA where they have a hill, which I'm just like, that's perfect for coffee because of the altitudes. But yeah, it can definitely be done in a greenhouse or somewhere that you can sort of maintain
Gotcha.
all the conditions that are favorable.
That makes sense.
Mhm.
So since we were talking about decaf,
Mhm.
Felicia ask,
Mhm.
is there a really good flavor decaf brand you can recommend for women who have become sensitive to caffeine?
Oh yeah. So I don't carry decaf just yet. That's something that we're working on, to have at Coffee Liberated. But two spaces I can suggest, which was one of them is in Baltimore. I think that's the closest to me at this point. But Southeastern Coffee Roasters. I was actually mentored. I did an apprenticeship with a Black woman. She owns her own roastery up there in Baltimore. Her name is Candy. She has actually organic coffee and coffee that is great for the environment and birds. So she's a scientist at heart, and I learned so much from her when I spent a year over it.
Goodness.
A year with her, and he got to come as well in Baltimore many times. But yeah, they reach out to her Southeastern Coffee Roastery.
So I'm loving
yeah.
the science of the whole thing, right? Because talking about like doing research and the different like climate you have to have and all of that stuff. So there's a lot of like math and science that goes into growing anything, but definitely growing coffee. So that's
and it gets even more interesting when you're roasting it.
Okay, I want you to talk about that.
Yeah.
So okay, so you have Coffee Liberated and you have your entrepreneur son. And so now you're like, I need to get the beans from somewhere. So you source the beans from?
Yeah, so I'm sourcing my beans currently from Rwanda through Higa Coffee Company. They are an exporter. They focus on bringing beautiful coffee from Rwanda to the world.
And you went to Rwanda, didn't you?
I did. I went to Rwanda. Oh, so part of the exchange program was Ethiopia. Then we went to Rwanda, which I get emotional of just thinking how beautiful. And so literally one thing that I always think of when I wake up in the morning is the plane ride descending into Rwanda and just seeing it's just green and it's lush. And you just want to get there and take your shoes off and go just walk on the grounds and it's beautiful. And I think we hear a lot about, and what the media feeds us about Africa and right. But I can tell you when you're in Rwanda, you're in one of the most beautiful countries in the world. Wow. With some of the most beautiful people in the world, with some of the greatest coffee in the world.
All right.
Being in Rwanda, really, just learning about the coffee that they grow there a lot, which is often the red bourbon variety, which is beautiful coffee as well. And really getting to experience coffee culture in a region that has been, incredibly impacted by colonization. And we see that with the genocide that took place. Right. And so while we were there, it was very intentional for us to be in, the spaces that, people, the history, we're able to talk about the history, and we were able to visit the museum as well and just take a moment to be present in that land and the people I get emotional that experienced that. And the way that they came together, which it's a really unique space that we visited. It was a Tuk collective, and it was one of the coffee farms that we went to. And if you actually go to my Instagram page, there's a picture of a few, maybe like 6 or 7 African women standing, and those were the women that make up the collective of this coffee farm. And they all came together as a way of healing, and so they each own a part of that coffee farm. I think it's I can't remember how many hectares, maybe like 40 acres.
Mhm.
But their way of coming together to heal was that story, and it was just beautiful. It was really powerful.
Heal the people, heal
They're
the
healing,
land.
healing the people, healing themselves, and they're cultivating coffee. And so the coffees that I currently, offer are women grown and cultivated, and they taught us so much. When it comes to planning the conditions that are required, the processing of coffee, really pretty much everything when it came to growing and cultivating coffee. So it's
Ooh.
one of the, I say all of my experiences are some of the most beautiful, but it's.
Yeah, I'm with you. I am with you. I know y'all want to hear more
Mhm.
about Ladora. We have about 15 more minutes, and we're gonna talk about we're gonna talk about your
Oh, yeah.
collaboration, but we
Mhm.
also want to talk about the coffees. So if you want to know more, just contact Ladora and Gendel directly, because we will not be able to get everything in because it's just so rich. But
Yeah.
as you can tell, this is like just such an important concept, content that it is about coffee, but it also transcends coffee. Talk about community and reclamation of
Mhm.
space, mindfulness, ceremony, joy, all of that. So
Yes.
I want so you have your coffee sourced from Rwanda, and then what happens? Like you get the beans in a bag.
Yeah, so I have a coffee that's sourced from Rwanda and Brazil, which is near and
Oh,
dear.
Lord have mercy.
to-
Rwanda
Yes.
and Brazil.
Yes.
Let me read this thing. How do you? Oh, I see. The names are different. This is the
Mhm.
red bourbon variety.
Yeah, this one's Rwandan. So
This is Rwanda.
yeah.
Red bourbon
Yep.
is Rwanda.
And this one is called Umuryango, which means family.
Oh.
in Kinyarwanda.
Oh, and this
Yes.
one is Brazil.
Yes, this is Brazilian. So this one is the Café dos Avós, which means grandparents' coffee.
And I see you to have a little. Oh my gosh! As a little girl, I'd often see my
Yep.
grandparents gather at the kitchen table. So this is the story that you told us in the beginning. It's on the label.
But not only that, so this is done to recall and to honor
That's not good.
them, and the introduction of coffee. But my first cup of quality specialty coffee, I went to Brazil, and it was the first cup of coffee I had that was black outside of the US, and it changed everything.
Oh my god!
And so this pays homage to that
Grandparents'
experience as
co-
well, and of course the African
killing me
diaspora
right
stuff.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, so our Brazilian coffee is really, something smooth, nutty, really chocolatey, something that you can have black at the table with your grandparents and loved ones. And our Rwandan one here
It
is
smells so good. I can smell it through the bag.
yeah.
Oh my.
And this has notes. It really reminds me of like a green tea with sort of a citrusy finish on it. So it's really unique flavors.
It's so funny because when I talk about honey, I talk about the different notes that different honeys have. And there's one honey, it's a buckwheat honey, it's dark.
Yeah.
And people say they use it in their coffee. So I'm gonna have to bring you some so you can see like how that might work.
Yeah, because I'm out of honey.
I was about to bring you some and I totally forgot.
Yeah, I'm out of
Okay,
honey.
we're gonna work that out. So you get your beans from Brazil,
Yes.
Rwanda, and then they come over on they come over and then what do you do with them?
So with which one is here? With our Rwandan coffee, this one is a washed coffee, and again, that's shared with us by with Higa Coffee Company. So we get our beans washed from there, then they arrive at my co-roasting facility, and I get to roast it.
How do you roast
Just
coffee?
really
What is that?
So you know what? That's a really good question, and I feel like yeah. So in the most ancestral form, we don't need a big coffee roasting machine is pan. You started with the pan.
Oh.
And so that's one of the
Just like-
first ways that I learned one of the most
And the
primitive
frying
forms
pan,
of
kiddo's
roasting
like, yeah,
coffee.
just,
You just put it, and he's experienced. I've done it for him at the house, and he said, "Mom, this smells like popcorn." I was like, "Yeah, it
Oh,
does.
'cause you
That's what it
roast
smells
the
like when you're
cookies.
roasting it."
And the skin comes off.
Yes, the chaff. That's what the chaff is, and you'll see.
Oh.
Oftentimes, when you're pan roasting it, you kind of see it fly off.
Oh.
Yeah. And so that's a part of the drying phase. There are different phases when you're roasting coffee. You have the drying phase, which it really gets rid of all the moisture. Then you have the Maillard phase, which you really then begin to get the acidity in the body, and you see the color happening. And then the development phase is the last part, which happens maybe the last 2 or 3 minutes. That's the really critical time that you have to be attentive, because you get all of your, the depth of flavor.
Like, doesn't it start as green and then goes to brown, like once it's like fully cooked?
Yeah, once it's fully roasted, yep, it starts green. It's like a light green color. I should have brought some. Sorry. Up into at the moment, the end of the development phase, where you either want to roast it lighter or continue it into a darker medium or dark.
That's a whole.
Yeah.
I have a bee mentor, Jody, and she's like, when I'm making my soaps and she's a pharmacist, but like when she's making her soaps and her, she's like, I cannot stop. Like I have to pay attention. So like, I cannot. No, like I need you to be doing that. That seems the same thing. Like you're roasting a coffee, you really need to be paying attention to what's happening, because you're gonna get the product that you get based on how attentive what you want to get out of it. It seems like it's a very like you have to pay attention to what's happening.
Yeah, and so a lot of it has to do with knowing the regions that it comes from and the climates and the environments that it's produced, because if in the elevation, it makes a big difference too. So depending on what country and what elevation you get, you'll be able to determine, okay, what flavors are coming through the coffee. Usually more of the berry flavors are, held within the lighter to medium. And the more like chocolatier, more bolder flavors you then get as you get medium.
That's
and
the same thing
darker.
with honey.
So,
That's the same thing.
there you go.
Look at that. And then you have your helper put it in bags and all that good stuff.
Yes.
Okay, so tell us, and we have 2 more questions for you, but tell us about this.
Oh, so this here, let me hold it up for everyone to see. This is, so in addition to the 2 roasted coffees that we do offer, either ground or whole bean, we also offer cold brew. And I wanted to, make sure as a roaster that I was able to offer, different methods of experiencing and connecting with coffee. And so we have our beans and then a cold brew here. We have just a plain cold brew, which is our Café dos Sabores. We just literally made a cold brew out of that one, our Brazilian coffee. But we also have another really special cold brew. And this one is called the LOL Southern Cold Brew. And it's a collaboration with an 8-year-old, young, brilliant, creative entrepreneur. Her name is Liza. And she actually has her own organic lemonade business. And so we partnered with her to get her lemonade, and we create this with our Café dos Sabores cold brew. And so it's literally a lemonade and cold brew.
So Liza, who also is in my class, so she sells lemonade at lunchtime. And I got a bottle of her lemonade, and she was like, Miss Hollee, you owe me $1. I was like, how are you $1? I had to find $1 to get.
Yes,
she is like not playing. She's 8 years old. She was like, Miss Hollee, like I was like, I'm good for it. She goes, no, like I need the money. So Liza's amazing. We love her and her mom's in it.
Yeah, she knows her. Oh, go ahead.
By the way, she sometimes she also sells cookies and I think brownies.
Yeah, delicious.
Yeah, they're so good. The lemonade, oh my, I could.
The lemonade is good. We need to get Liza on the show because she is a hoot.
Yeah. Any question you have about her business, she can answer.
She is not playing with the entrepreneurial stuff.
Yeah.
So before you answer these last 2 questions, where can we find all of this?
Yeah. So currently, you can find me at the next market or a festival I'm going to be at. It's at the Happily Natural Festival.
Me too.
Yes, I'm really excited. Proud to be there. It's such a beautiful space. It's going to be on August the 31st. So please bring your family, your friends, your loved ones, everyone there to experience such a beautiful space of,
Yep, the Happily Natural
festival. Yeah. Yeah.
Happily natural.
Happily Natural.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be workshops and vendors and performances, and it's just a great at the Fifth District Farm, if I'm not mistaken.
Fifth District
It's just mini farm. Yeah, it's just a wonderful, beautiful time. Folks should come out. It's Deron Chavis curates it. It has been doing so, I think, for like 21 years, and this might be the 21st year. It's a fabulous time. It's like from 12 to 8 or 10 or something.
Yeah, and so I think the vendors are going to be there throughout the day portion, as well as the workshops and some of the live experiences, and then towards the evening, a lot of the event-based performances will happen. So it's going to be a full day of fun.
Come out, and you're gonna have plenty of products,
plenty of cold brew to sample, plenty of coffee. I'll have some ground as well if you don't have a grinder, which you should have. But
get your coffee grinder. Yeah. But if you don't have one yet, you can.
I got you.
She got you.
I got you.
So here are two questions. They're kind of similar, but one's from Alicia, one's from Rachel. What are your dream coffee collaborations? Like, who do you fangirl over in the coffee world? And if you could sit and have your coffee with one person in chat, who would it be and why? Which actually, those are two very different questions. So one is like, who are you fangirling in the coffee world? And the other question is, who would you sit and have coffee with and why?
Those are two really good questions. Yeah. So the first one, who do I fangirl over? Any Black coffee professional, like, is a great opportunity for me to collaborate with. I've been able to, before I even, start the business, I had to build my own community, my own village of people who I know were on the same track as me and wanted to, experience the same thing as me and create spaces for our people. And so pretty much anyone I'm down to collaborate with as well. But, if I had a choice to collaborate with someone, it would definitely be in the motherland. So, which I already have the opportunity to, because I'm working with so many amazing coffee farms and importers and exporters. So I feel like I'm already doing it, and it's such a blessing. I'm grateful. But the next question, if I could sit down with someone and have a cup of coffee with, who would it be? Man, that's a really powerful question. And it definitely, of course, the ancestor. Oh gosh, if I could, I think I would love to sit down. Oh goodness, I'm thinking of so many people right now. Oh goodness,
you can be a party with all the people.
Yeah, with all the people. I would say, oh goodness, it would have to be with our loved ones that have and ancestors that have passed away. But I definitely have to say, if I could have another conversation with my grandmother and her mother, I would definitely love to sit down with them and to just share stories with. That's why this moment is happening, because these are the moments that we need to have with our families, because we never know when they're going to be called to elevate to be our ancestors. And so, the fact that we're sitting here is the reason why, I try to tell, express and give space to my son to share, because this is something that he's going to remember and is going to, remain with him. But any moment you have to share, whether that's with coffee will definitely elevate that experience for you. But I think it would definitely be my grandmother and her mother as well.
And I bet they would be just so thrilled to have conversation with you around coffee when you talk about, like, I've had these experiences, and you kind of peeking in when you were a young girl, and now you're like a woman at the table having conversations. I bet that would be like really thrilling.
Yeah, I was always given the space to be curious and to ask questions. I did have like a little sharp tongue as well, a little witty.
No.
Yeah.
No, you know.
That was my way of resisting, but now this is my own way of resisting. Really within capitalism is
Yeah.
creating my own space, right? But it's also recalling the memories that I have and the history that I'm connected to. Very rich, powerful history that we're all connected to and we all benefit from.
And I would think your I would think that the folks who your customers
Mhm.
also feel like this is their way of resisting. So instead of going to the store, I tell people this about honey all the time. Instead of buying your honey from a jar at the store, buy it like from someone that you know,
Mhm.
right? And because it has a story to it, and there's a richness to it, and there's a kind of authenticity to it that you just don't get like pulling something off the store. And so I bet that people who buy coffee, cold brews from you, also feel like they're resisting because they are supporting a Black woman-owned business, and again, they get like all the stories, all the love that comes with it.
Like at the store, you can get, honey or coffee. It'll be processed and stuff, and it'll cost more. But if you know a Black woman or a Black man that sells honey or coffee or anything that you like having to eat or drink, you can get it from them. Like it's probably locally grown, and it'll taste different. Probably even taste better, and
Yeah.
they'll probably sell it for cheaper.
Yeah.
Well, they're going to
Or
sell it
not.
for what it's worth.
Well,
But yeah.
wait, let's do the money thing.
Oh.
Oh.
Ching, ching.
We have a few minutes left.
Yeah.
Thank y'all for your questions, and thank you, Ladora, for the I feel like the conversation could go on and on and on because you have just uncovered so many just amazing things to think about, to like sit in. And I'm glad this is recorded so that you can go back and watch it like over and over again because there's just a lot to digest. Kendall, would you like to have one of the last words? Your mom will have the last word. Do you want to have like the next to the last word? Anything you want to say?
You want to share?
Yes,
what
please
you're working
share.
on. So come,
Oh my God,
come a
share.
little bit closer. There you go.
So I'm working on my YouTube channel, and it's gonna be called Ken's Book World, and I'm gonna be focusing on book reviews.
Wait a minute, but you said book reviews?
Yeah,
Did he say book
from
reviews?
from Black authors.
Oh, my book
and
can be
Who
the
writes
first book.
books?
My book can be the first book. Hey, let me let you go. Keep going. I'm sorry. I got excited.
About Black authors, and we're gonna try to contact them and try to make them see it so they can give us their books for free.
That is, hey, and then you can spread it around.
Yeah, we can share with our community.
Yeah, called Ken's Book World.
Yeah.
I love it. When are you starting, or have you started?
Well,
we've read so many books.
Oh,
so like I don't know, but I think I'm starting right. Right now.
All right. Well, Miss Kaya and Dee Dee, Kaya is a doula. She is not a doula. She's a midwife. Even though doula's amazing. And she's a parent of a kid at Cultural Roots, or a couple of kids at Cultural Roots, and Dee Dee, who is the art teacher. We all collaborated on a new book that's in press right now. So maybe that could be. It's called City Bees. So maybe that could be on your list because it's a brand new book.
I'm excited. And shout out to like Nakaya and Duran who own Sankofa. Sankofa Orchards or Garden, which Kim was talking about in the beginning. It's a really special, sacred space for us.
Yep, that is awesome. All right, Ladora, take us out. Last thing you would like to say about your work or anything?
Yeah. So something that I want to leave with you all is one of the quotes I was, really inspired by when I was thinking about, what am I going to call this experience, this journey of liberation, was a quote by the late great Maya Angelou, and she has a quote that states, "History, despite its wrenching pain, cannot be unlived, but if faced with courage, need not be lived again. The more you know of your history, the more liberated you are. And so, any moment that you have that you come in contact with a coffee plant in all of its versions, whether it's being planted, whether it's a seed that you pick from a cherry, whether it's being washed or fermented or roasted, or you're brewing it and enjoying it, it's a journey that began. That's your journey of liberation that you're beginning as soon as you interact with the coffee plant. And so that's what I want people to experience when they enjoy a cup of coffee, knowing that it's beginning a journey of liberation.
Coffee liberated.
Yeah.
Yay!
All
Yay! Thank you so much. That was amazing.
All
Thank
right.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
As always, we can go on for another hour, but we haven't got it to spare. So thanks a lot. Wave goodbye to your radio audience out there. Thanks to all. We need to do this more often.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Thank you.